screen. Can hear you. I will describe to make sure that you can know where we are. All right, we're going to go through this link, which is Your Success. So that actually takes you to a website that me and my brother have that we're kind of building. Bite Ideas. That's our thing. And I put some stuff out here because it's just easier to do. So these are a couple of other things that we'll be doing later on. S-curve is way down there. We're taking a look at what's right here, success in college, and really looking at what are the things that make you successful in anything. Right now you're in college, so that's what we're concerned with. And I've broken it down into these three things. Your desire to do something, you envisioning yourself achieving it, dreaming about it, setting goals, that kind of thing, and then working to actually achieve it. Where do most people fall apart in those three areas? Working. All right. We don't see the famous football player or basketball player doing nothing in their life other than that, right? We don't see that. And a lot of times they don't mention it. They just go, well, don't give up on your dreams, work towards your dreams. What the heck are they talking about? Right. And so people have a desire, and they have a desire to do whatever it is we're talking about. Like you have a desire to finish a degree. You have that. Even if you're like, I don't even know if a degree is what I want, but I'll go do that right now. There's still a desire that motivated you to do it. And then the envisioning part, that's not hard for people. Usually they can sit down and go, wow, so 5 years from now, I'm going to be doing this and I'll have enough money to do that. And they'll figure out how this is going to fit into their life. And then the working part is where it starts to fall apart because life is life, right? Things get in the way. So there's a little test that you're going to take over these concepts. And so this also is the last little part of doing notes for this first section. So once we get done with this, you'll be able to turn those notes in, make a PDF and turn it in. So I wrote out some stuff here about going through desire. So right here, maybe you have an interest in history, desire to learn more. So you begin to imagine a future where you teach history, or maybe you go into politics. The reason I put that is because that's really all you can do. So I like history a lot, but I didn't go into that because there's not a lot of job opportunities there. So you enroll in a 200 level history class, and it's obviously more demanding. It's more detailed. And then you find your desire is really just a strong interest, right? That's how we learn in life, right? You come and you take a 100 level history class and you go, this is flipping cool. This is cool. And then you take the 200 level and they're like, okay, every week you're going to read 40 pages and you're going to write a report about blah, 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 of whatever you read. And you go, I don't like history that much. But in the beginning, you don't know that. You just kind of start to go through it. And then you realize my desire is not that strong. It's really just an interest. And so I don't want to go into that. Right? The envisioning is the solidification of a desire. That's where you're actually starting to think about, this is what I'm going to do. That's why I talk a lot about financial prosperity or the ability to go anywhere and obtain employment. I talk a lot about that because the truth is most people don't sit around going, yeah, I'm going to be that person and I'll know how to fix all the network problems. That's not usually a person's desire. Their desire is usually for the other side of their life. What can I do with this? I want to do something I like, something I'll be successful at, because that's going to make me happy. But can I go to that trip from Hawaii? How long will it take me to do that? Will I be able to just go anywhere I want, or do I have to live in certain places? People don't think of those things. If your desire is to work for a big company, you're not living in Safford, right? You're not living in the Gila Valley because big companies are not here. You're going to have to go someplace else. You say, oh, I want to go into international business. Well, those are big companies that do that. That's not a small or medium company that's going to do that. Not that it doesn't happen. It does. I know people around here that travel for their little companies. They're just like, you know, 1 out of 1,000 here. Where for larger companies, they're 1 out of 100.
With everybody, lots of people working from home, does that change anything?
It does. Hugely, especially in IT. Before, I would tell people, oh yeah, you can work from home. You know, those jobs are there. But now I could do a search, we'll see when we start looking at careers, and it's like work from home, work from home, work from home. There's so many of them. Most of them do require you to go and either be trained someplace and then work from home, or go work for them someplace and then they'll let you work from home. You know, but still, yeah, it's a big thing that you can do now that before you couldn't. You really couldn't. Okay, and then working, that's where we need to focus on, you know, when the road gets tough, get going, that's what they say. But these days, a lot of people go, yep, when the road gets tough, that means I go find another road, right? That's a lot of times what people mean these days. Yeah, the tough get going, right out of there. They just don't do it. What do you consider? How much are you willing to pay in time and energy to succeed? Right? In anything you do, that is the fundamental portion. And that really comes back to the other two things, your desire and you envisioning. Now, this is the interesting thing. Those who fail won't end up working less, but they do end up getting paid less. Gosh, I don't know how many people I've run into. Well, school's just not for me. School wasn't ever for me. Did you ever go to college? No, school wasn't for me. So I don't say this, right? This is not the kind of thing you say in conversations. But I'm thinking, right? So you just based your whole life choice of not going to school on your experience in high school?
I know somebody like that.
Yeah, there's lots of people like that. That's what you based it on? Because college isn't high school. Yeah, but I'm not good at studying. So what do? You know, and you start to find out what they do. You're like, you've been studying your whole life. It just wasn't in a book.
She actually doesn't see why anybody should read after they leave high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit excessive. That's different. Yeah, so that's the thing I want to point out to you. In other words, I'm trying to convince you, don't dump on this. You're going to have tough times in college. You're going to have to knuckle down and get things done. There's going to be classes you absolutely hate and you can't wait for them to end. But don't give up on it, because really what happens is those that do give up, they still work just as hard. They just don't get paid as much. That's just what it comes down to. Now, we've already looked at the fact that you could go into programming if you're a genius without going to college. But does that change what you have to study? Oh, heck no. You're just not getting a grade for it. You're just not getting any credits for it. You're just not getting that piece of paper that'll help you out later. You're still going to have to study your butt off. Right? So commit to doing the hard things now. It'll pay off. It really will pay off. This is an assumption I like to point out. People assume that teachers are the ones that love school and excelled at it. The truth is, most teachers did not. Most of us struggled to learn. And finally, we learned how to do it. And that motivated us to go into teaching. Oh, sure, there's always people that love certain things. And so they just really want to do that and they go into it. And they always excelled at that certain thing. And I did with computers. But I struggled a lot in high school, a lot. You know, like my friends are all done with everything, and I'm going home and studying more. You know, that was me. And when I talk to other teachers, most of them tell the same story. So really, what's behind their motivation to teach is usually the fact that they learn how, and they hope to pass that on to somebody else. That they don't give up on it, and that they keep going. And I already talked about this section. This is the part about the child prodigies. And that basically they just worked their butts off. Their parents said, "You're going to do that." Oh, what's his name? He's an actor. He's an Asian. He's an American, but he's Asian descent. He's an actor, and he's also a medical doctor. Can't remember what's it. Yeah, yeah. He's a medical doctor. Why? Because his parents pushed him to do that, and he did it. And then he's like, "I don't want to do this," right? So you have to realize that there's a ton of study behind those people that are successful. There's very, very few people in the world that have that eidetic memory or just go, "Oh, I got that. Thanks. See you later now." And most of those people usually don't achieve anything because everything comes so easy. They just don't go and do stuff. I know students that were like that. So they're just normal kids. And we did our study time assignment, which hopefully you've turned in already, but if not, you hopefully will turn it in. And again, this is just an average. It's just saying that, hey, when you go in and you sign up for all these classes, there's a work schedule that the teacher's thinking about. And the reason why is it's not just this is what we have to do to learn this. It's because the feds say, you're a higher ed institution. This is our calculation. Obey, or we'll take your certification away. Right? So that's a part of it. And so they have that going on. And sometimes if they get caught not doing that, then they get in trouble and that kind of thing. And so you have to realize that's behind there. You're going to have some classes that you don't do anything. You go through 50-minute periods and that's all you ever do. And there's never any homework. And then there's going to be other classes where, right, you're working 10 hours a week, just to keep up with what's happening. Let's see. Oh, here's a big one. Here is a big one. So if you haven't been listening, please listen to this portion. We often hear from students that many high school classes only require them to attend, study a study guide, tests. So that just really equals the 3 hours that they're there, and then maybe 2 hours outside of class. And that's what they're used to. And then when they come to college, they study that way. So they're studying. They've been taught from where they came for 4 years at least. If junior high was that way, then 6 years, right? But that's what you do. And then they come to college and they do that study. That's my habits. That's what I'm doing. So why don't they succeed? Well, they do put in the time. It's just not enough. They're like, well, I'm doing what I did in high school. I don't know why I'm still failing this course. It's like, because that's a harder class for you. Maybe not hard for everybody, but it's a harder class for you. You got to put in more time to make it happen. And so that's because past experience showed them that educational success was cheap when it came to their time. It wasn't really that costly. I get it done. That's fine. And then when they get to college, it's like, oh, this is not so cheap. But the problem is, and that's why I'm telling you now, they don't figure that out until about halfway through the semester. And then they're like at the CD range in whatever that class is. Like, oh my goodness. And then the road got tough and they just go, never mind. Instead of going, oh, I got to study more. I got to put more time in. That is just the truth. The amount of time you spend understanding the material in your classes will be equal to your success in those classes. And I can tell as an instructor, like, well, in 118 is a ton of info. There's a lot of stuff in there. None of it's really that hard. It's not super demanding. It's just like, whoa, I got a ton of stuff. And then I'll have students that'll come in and say, yeah, but what about this or what about that? And I'm like, oh, they've been studying. They actually read that material. They actually looked at that material, and they're seeking for, I need to know this about that. I need to create a link in my brain about this. And others, they don't look at it at all. And they're just like, I don't know, how does this fit? And they never really catch on. Now, just as a note about cramming. Cramming does not result in knowledge that lasts. Now, if we want to get super technical, if you've gone through and you've really tried to understand a class, then cramming does work. Because really what you've done is you've created a bunch of knowledge and it's just kind of floating around in your head. And the process of just studying super hard starts to put that together and pull it together. What I'm referring to is what students usually do, which is I've blown off the entire semester. I'm hoping so much rides on the final so I can get a better grade on the final. Now I'm going to cram, right? You're learning at that point, right? You don't know any of this stuff. You're trying to put it in, and at that point, you'll remember it for a couple of days, and then your brain has learned, just flush that, right? Someplace it's in your brain, but your brain is just like, we don't need to make too many connections about that. Just get rid of it now. You pass a class, but when you go get a job, they're like, did you take those classes? That happens a lot. Like, are you sure you took computer classes? Because I'm asking you computer-y questions, and it's not happening. Computer, yeah, I'm thinking from management point of view,
I'm not getting computer answers.
What does the mouse do? Anyway.
Clicks. How do you press the end key?
Yeah. Where is the F key? Where is it? It's right there in the corner. Yeah.
Control and all keyboards.
No, the FN key is the function key. Yeah, that's the function key. So that's what FN stands for. That's the hidden key, right? That does weird things when you press other numbers. Anyway, so how can you tackle the big thing of I need to actually pass classes? I need to actually do really well in them. And honestly, the reason to do well in them is not because later some job is going to say, did you get an A in that? They don't do that unless you go into education. The reason to do well in them is because it teaches your brain how to do well at that thing. That's what it is. That's why I make you take notes. Especially in my hard courses, I would tell people take notes, it'll help you. And then they wouldn't. And I went from maybe 1 or 2 students getting an A and everybody getting C's to the majority of students getting A's and very few of them getting C's. So taking effective notes is important. Now, hopefully you get to the point that the notes focus you so well, but later on you don't have to do it. Right? By the time I got to my bachelor's program, I didn't take notes at all because I could listen to everything the instructor said and file it in my brain and I was good to go. That was a big difference between then and high school. But notes are what did that for me. Actually study to understand. This will make doing assignments easier. I cannot stress that enough. Now, this is a portion from my own life because I was so overwhelmed with everything that I had to learn as a student that I would just try to study what I could and never really try to understand what was going on. And then I would go do the assignment and the assignment would say this, that, and the other, and I'd have to go study to understand so I could do the assignment. That's usually why the assignments are there, because nobody studies to understand to begin with. Right? So if you study to understand that when you do the assignment, then you're like, oh yeah, I know what that is, it's this. Oh, I wonder what that was. And then you look up a couple of things and you're done with the assignment. Get out of that brain dump mentality. And I'm telling you, it's something that your brain has learned. So it's not something that you thought, I'm going to brain dump. I'm going to go learn something and then forget it. That's not our thought process. But your brain has learned to do it. That's what a brain dump means. It means that, well, I learned all this stuff and now forget it. I'll move on. Organize yourself. Use technology to remind you of study that needs to be done, when assignments are due, what tests are coming up. I am so surprised when people are like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. You have a phone you can talk to. Set a reminder to study at whatever. I mean, wow. I didn't have anything like that. So use technology. Actually put your schedule in. Actually put in things like, I got a test coming up in that class. So not only am I going to put on my calendar, I have a test on this date. I'm actually going to create a reminder that says study for this test. So I'll go, oh yeah, I need to study for that. Review course material and your notes prior to class. Like in 118, we're going to start getting into hardware. I want students to actually be doing the stuff prior to coming to class. In other words, I want them to come into class having already gone through what I'm going to talk about. That way they can actually raise their hand and say, yeah, but did it also say this? How does that fit in? That's really what we want. It's usually students are not trained to do it, even though college expects it. They go, oh, the teacher's going to give me like a summary and then I'll go study it. Should be reversed. Participate in class discussions, you know, when I ask stuff. And some of my courses like networking, create a study group. Ask me questions. People don't ask enough questions. They're always so concerned that somebody else is going to go, that's a stupid question. This is college. If somebody actually did that, I would kick them out. I only had, in my whole time of teaching, I had one student that would do that. Some kid would ask a question, and they'd go, that's a stupid question. I said, if you do it again, I'm going to drop you from class. And he never came back. Because that you don't do that in college. You just, that's not the way professionals work. And so give yourself enough time to research, write, and edit your essays. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with my classes because I'm not really having you do a lot of essays or anything. That's something that I've learned. I don't know how many students will say, I got an A on that English paper and I spent like 2 minutes on it. You know, there's like that they're, so you're proud about not doing a good job. That's not really a good thing to do. If you spend time researching and you have enough time to write, oh, it's so easy. Again, another thing that I learned. I was not that way. I'd blow it all off. I would sit down and be that person, right? Okay, I'm doing all my research right now and I'm writing right now and I'm going to get it done in the 2 days, right? Even though English has given me 3 months. I'm going to get it all done in 2 days and then I turn it in. And then finally, when I was in my master's program, I found, because they forced me to, honestly, that if you really understood the information and you researched, you just sat down and wrote it out. You were done. Just a piece of cake. It's like, wow, why haven't I been doing this forever in my life? Take advantage of any online or on-campus academic support resources. That one is specifically for, you really have a hard time with algebra, take advantage of a tutor that's there. Go and see somebody and say, I got to get through this thing, right? I don't plan on doing algebra my whole life, but I got to have this class, right? I'm struggling with this. Take advantage of anything that they have that you can use. And then again, spend sufficient time studying. If you do this from the get-go, you'll find that you're super successful. There's not a ton of stress. It's kind of spread across the whole semester instead of right at the end. And you'll see that you can do it. So much of our life is dependent on whether or not we actually believe we can do something. If we don't believe we can do it, then we don't even try. So if you have that desire that's really kind of pushed you to be here, start using all those good habits, because what you're going to learn this semester is, wow, I can do this. I can do it. Some of it was tough, some of it was easy, but I can get this done. And then next time it's not so hard for you because you know you can get it done. You know you can do it. It is really a huge part of our life. If you don't believe you can, then you don't try. I will be successful. So that is the little test. And that's tied to your success. So make sure you study before you take that little test. It's like 10 questions, 11 questions. And I'll put a due date on that. Everything else has got it does have a due date. I did put one on there. IT and IS, that one doesn't have one. I need to put one on there. So I will be putting due dates on here, and I will always give you a little more time than you need. And again, you need to get it done. Well, let's just put it this way. We just completed that. So I would expect by Wednesday, you're complete with it. You did all of it. It's really hard to move forward on any topic, no matter what you're learning, when you're still doing stuff from a week earlier. That's just the truth. That's why some instructors are really rigid. They'll be like, nope, let's do this Friday and it'll never open again. Sorry you missed it. Because we've moved on. And, you know, you can't have your brain stuck in the past. So I would expect you guys to have already turned in your study time, right? Already done that. Course sequence, right? We did that on Friday. And then you would finish the rest of these small little tiny assignments before we start the next stuff. And we're starting that today, but on Wednesday. So it's a little prompt. Hey, I said go. Right, so that's basically what you're answering there.
How long should it be?
Need to answer the question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It is. It's much easier than people think. Yes.
When we turn our notes in, I have like a separate document for each day that I've done for taking notes. Do you want me to compile them all into one PDF?
You
together,
can-
Or, okay,
You can do either. So
okay.
you could upload them all, or you could say, okay, here's one PDF, or you can copy and
What
paste.
if I already uploaded some of my notes and I have more notes? So I just like take the notes that I did and just put them together. And submit them again.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me show you what they're asking questions about here. So let's take a look at the notes. So I have a text entry box or a file upload. And so you could either just create a one PDF and then upload that file, or you could actually copy paste the stuff straight into that text box that appears. You could do either one of those. And so if you did that, right, you'd want to go back in and go, okay, well, let me just copy the whole thing I have and then paste over what's already there. That's what you'd want to do. And then I can look in the text box, or I can look at your PDF.
How do I change the PDF?
What are you in?
I'm on OneNote.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at that in just a minute, because basically you go to file and then you go down to save as,
Okay.
and then you can select PDF on there and it'll do it for you. But we'll look at that. We'll save some time right at the end. Other questions? Yeah, so you can click, just remember, you can click on any of these assignments and look at what it's asking you. It's not like it locks you in as soon as you go in there. You can look at it, like even the test, right? It'll say, hey, you need to go read the information before you come and take this test. Can't see the questions, but you can look at IT and IS. Mark the correct answers. That's what you're going to see. What do you think IT and IS is linked to? IT and IS, yep. So I've tried to make that clear. I want you to understand the stuff up there, that anything that has a quiz, it's linked to something above. Read that information. And yeah, I would open that. I would, even though we went through it, I'd peruse it, you know, like try to get my memory going again about what that was, and then go take the test. You know, you say test and it just freaks people out. Does quiz make you feel better? It's either that or I could have you write a paragraph or two about that material. And most people don't want to do that. So I made them tests. Previously, all those things were, tell me these things, and you had to write about it. All right, we're going to move down for just a few minutes, 5 minutes here. Jobs in IT and IS. We'll get started on careers. This is a fun portion. It actually has a lot less concepts than what we just went through, because we're just looking at jobs. That's really what we're looking at here. And so there are 5 main areas of jobs in technology. I'm using that term liberally, right? There's programming, data services, anything dealing with database systems. That's what data services is. Infrastructure design and support. That's where networking falls into. Security, that I had to split that out because that's such a huge area these days. So security is its own. And customer service. And you can get paid a lot of money in customer service. Right? That's usually the entry level job that really you don't get paid too well in and you don't want to do for very long. But you're not aware of the things that, for instance, you ever thought about when you go into a hospital, what software they're using? No. Nobody thinks about it at all. Their customer service is not Dell customer service. And because it's not Dell customer service, they pay more. If you know how to really use that software, you could get paid well. Shoot, I knew a guy that he was so good. He made like 60,000. This was like 15 years ago. So he made 60,000 doing customer service for this company that, you know, it had several thousand installs of their software. And they charge their customers, you know, a pretty penny. And he was like the go-to guy. He was always the one that could figure it out. He finally gets to the point where he's like, 60 years old, I'm going to retire. They paid him 60,000 a year to work part-time from his house back when that was not a normal thing to do. Because they're like, we cannot lose you. We just cannot lose you. He was like, I should have done this 5 years ago. So you can actually make quite a bit of money in customer service if you're really, really good with people and technology. That's kind of a hard set of skills to get there. And then related to computing, often the world sees these: engineering, robotics, biotechnologies. Those things usually require engineering degrees to do those things, but those are also related to technology. We're going to take a look at career coach. That's really what we're going to do today, is just this part, this career coach stuff. And then on Wednesday, we'll take care of the rest of this career one stop and all this different stuff. I want you to have some tools, right? I want you to be able to really look at, this is what I would do if I'm finding a career. I can't tell you how many students do that at the end of their education. It's like, she just spent 4 years. If you went to ASU, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. And now you've decided to look for a career. Not quite a good idea. Should have been doing that before. So EAC actually has purchased this, and all this is available to you. So there's these assessments you can take, different careers you can look at. It'll actually show you the programs here at EA that lead to those careers. And you can actually set up your resume in there, and your login should be your Gila Inc. So this is no different. You just log in with this. Now, you don't have to log in with it. I can browse careers right here, and this is what I'm, going to do for 2 minutes. So I'll put in, we'll put in database. Results, database architecture, architects. How many people need a bachelor's degree in that? 63% of them have bachelor's degrees. So it's a little over the majority. Database administrators, right? And clinical data managers. GIS is huge, graphical information systems. That's where the light post is. That's where your house is, all that kind of information. Tons of jobs in that. Wasn't really looking for library technicians. Data warehouse specialists. So here's a bunch of stuff, right? And they're going to show you this data they're pulling these salaries from is live. So what they're doing is looking at, these are the job postings, and this is what these people are saying they'll pay. That's what they're doing. What we want to do is actually just go, well, what is this? What, like a database administrator, I hear that a lot. What is that? And actually look at anything under here that helps us build what is that. A lot of this section, and really a huge portion of this section, is looking further into any kind of real job and seeing what they do. Now, I know that this aggravates some students because it's like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want to be a database administrator. Well, you got to start someplace. And so that's where we're starting. We're starting just by looking at job descriptions, seeing what these people do, how much do they make, how many jobs are out there to do that, where could I go if I did this kind of thing, to give you information in your head that you can choose from later. Right? As you're going down the road, you can go, You know, I was reading about that, right? So they have the overview, then they have about wages, employment, similar careers, right? So there's your daily tasks. That's what we're going to look at several resources, but this is an awesome resource. I'm telling you, they're really good. As a matter of fact, you should go work for these people. It's a little company up in Idaho, I guess. No cookies. Anyway, that's what we're going to be doing. Next couple of days, we'll just be looking at different jobs and what they do and what do they do on a daily basis, how much do they get paid, that kind of stuff. That's not what they do.
That's just a generic picture.
Yeah. If my database administrator is in here doing this, I'll be like, what the crap are you doing? Don't mess with those. I don't need phone calls. Unplug that one. Good colors though. You know, it's almost yellow. Anyway. All right, so we're going to stop there and then we will take a look at exporting anything we need to. And I'll take roll and we'll be done for today. Let me find my Zoom. Where's my Zoom controls? What page are my Zoom controls on? There it is. There it
It's
is.
awkward to look at.
The one I can't stop recording. There we go.